Good evening, fellow traders. This is Joseph with PrimerusTrade, and we're coming to you tonight with our trade plan for September 21st of 2020 for Monday, essentially. We're gonna go ahead and go through this one pretty quick, um, but just want to point out a couple things, even though we are gonna move a little fast through these. I'm going to point out some things that are pretty interesting to those who aren't familiar with it, as far as certain um, things that the market tends to do in certain situations. So without further ado here, let's go ahead and go for it. Let's go right into it. So for slash ES, um, looking at the higher time frame, we're going ahead and looking at the 4 hour time frame. As you can see, I've drawn up some trend lines here for you, and we have the Keltner channels here. We had this big dump day on the third. We keep having these little pullbacks, dump, pullback, dump, and now you can see we're kind of in a range as I've drawn out here. Okay, um, and I'll show you kind of the reason why we're in a range towards the end of the explanation of where we may or may not go. Okay, so as far as yes is concerned, we can see that we're right now, we had a serious sell off on the third, and then hence legs lower, hence the downtrend, and now we have sideways action. We're basically playing a bigger range right now. And that's the key. These are like, you know, the pain or the pressure points of what the market, in my opinion, is going to take right now. And depending on what we get, especially with the fact that we have I believe we have a Fed chairman speaking tomorrow, I want to say, and also we're heading into the third quarter, and all these good things, and so it's going to be a volatile third quarter for sure. Um, or I should say volatile fourth quarter. Sorry. Um, but either way, we're oversold here on the Keltner. So let's go ahead and look for the first scenario where where the markets may want to go tomorrow during the NY session for ES. So this is a bigger time frame. I'm seeing a big uh, range bound situation, and depending on what we do here within this week, I think it's gonna dictate what happens in the overall macro picture. So let's go ahead and go to the shorter time frame on ES. Um, so here we have our expectation zones. We have our value area, previous value area pockets, and our expansion zones and our decision points. Okay, so and I've also marked up some trend lines for you all to kind of base some of your trading off of if you would like to do so. So with ES, what I think again with these zones that we're in, okay, what I see is, um, as you can see, we opened up today in Globex and we went higher. We came into the value area box. We pulled back, and now we pulled back. We made a higher low, and we're breaking out of this upper trend channel, and we're currently battling value area low. Okay, so in the immediate, there's not for the NY session, but if you're up for London, if you get a break out of here, um, I would essentially like to see a break beyond this minus 2.5 expectation zone, pull back, and then head towards our decision point ultimately, which is the minus 50% expectation zone all the way to the 100. Okay, and if we just want a little context, yeah, we can see it right here. So we had a touch here at the minus 50% expansion zone, back on the ninth. Okay, and then we had a kind of a higher low off of that, and you can see the range again here that we've been having, and we're back at the lows of the range. So that's why I say there's a decision point. We may essentially come break this, have a pullback, head lower, hit this decision point anywhere between this area of the minus 50% expansion to the 100% expected range, um, and expected move ultimately. And then depending on what that does during NY, I believe will dictate what kind of a day we have. So what I would look at if I'm looking at a slash ES, whether it be through Nadex and binary options or futures or touch brackets and whatnot, would since we're oversold and we're playing the range, the tops and bottom of the ranges on the macro, I would look for if you're headed, if we're headed lower into it before we make a decision point. Again, like I said, a breakthrough, pull back and come down here and then wait, pause and see what action we have down here. I suspect we might get some of that during the New York session. Again, nobody knows until we're actually at NY. So if to make the case for going higher, I want to see it ultimately be somewhere around this area within this expansion zone and get up here, pull back, and then head up higher. And then so for example, we come around NY and we're around the -5 uh, expansion zone or minus 100% expectation zone. I would wait for us to break higher through one of the zones, pull back, lock, go up, to get 25% of the move, lock in something, and then continue to the next target. Okay, that's the case for us to go longer. I mean, ultimately, the most great scenario I would like is a touch of this minus 50% expectation zone, because we had it back here, and so this will be a second. We already had a second touch, so ultimately we're gonna see if this third touch holds. Okay, if we do get to this third touch area, then we'll see if it holds as resistance, or sorry, support. See if it holds as support, and we can't get a bounce out of that and go higher. Now, if we go higher, um, then we have another interesting situation, which is where we can come up here, go at some point touch Friday's settlement or close, okay, and get above that, pull back, and then what I would do is go ahead and look for to lock in 25% of the move higher, and then keep locking in until I get somewhere to the POC, which is this yellow line right here, and you can see a lot of congestion to the left. And then if we get even higher than that, pull back, come higher, and then lock in here at this plus 50% expectation zone, and then who knows, we may even break, pull back, and go higher up to this 100%. But again, it's all that dictates, and it's all it would all have to be based on what you're seeing uh, during NY, because right now, as I'm putting this video together, it's 12:40 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we would have to see what London gives us and ultimately where we're at, during the NY session. So that's ES. Let's go ahead and go on into NQ. Let's do it on the bigger time frame first. Okay, and this is NQ. It's not too different from what we're seeing on ES. Okay, same kind of situation, although we've dipped lower below this range that I've drawn out here. So you can make a case for this. I'll go ahead and draw this out for you. Is you can go ahead and make a case for this right here, off of these two swings. You can make this case and ultimately see what happens. This is on the 4-hour time frame again, and see that right there. Kind of have had this break of this swing right here, come back up, and now we have a break of this swing, and ultimately see if we maybe touch this. We're breaking out of this range, but again, we're oversold on this Keltner. So let's see, again, we may go back into this range and possibly head to mid Keltner or whatnot. But again, it all depends on what NY gives us and where we land overnight from London. Let's go ahead and zoom in on our lower time frame on NinjaTrader 8. So here on NQ is the 15-minute chart. And um, what you can see here, sorry, is again kind of the same thing across what we saw in ES. Uh, Same thing here is I'm looking at this minus 50% expectation zone. It's touched here, and let's see if we got another touch at some point. No, so not like ES. We haven't gotten two touches, although um, interestingly enough, off of this POC that we have, the current day's POC for tomorrow, for Monday or today actually, um, we see that we did that was essentially we had a bounce there and a bounce here on the 17th. Actually, three bounces, three touches and a failure lower here on NQ. So we've let's see again here, same kind of situation. What I would like to ultimately see is we've broken out of this channel. We may head lower, okay, but I want to make the case for going higher first. So what I would like to see, we're out of this upper trend channel. I'd like to see us come down, pull back, make higher lows. If you're trading during London, pull back, make a higher low off of this minus 25% expectation zone. Lock in here 25%, and try to target the minus 50% expectation zone, which would be our decision point within the expansion box in value area, um, and then see what happens from there. Ultimately, at value area low right here, which is also within the expansion box, uh, and this minus 75% expectation zone, because and also this minus 100%, because what may end up happening is if over the Globex and London session we land in this area somewhere in this vicinity, and then in NY we may turn around and go higher, simply because of where we are on the chart, okay, on the macro picture. So if we come down, that's in somewhere in this vicinity during NY, we want to see breaks higher. Okay, if we let's say we could break out of this value area box overnight or over Globex session or London, I would like to see a pullback into it. Pullbacks take 25% and then target the next significant level, and so on and so forth, um, and see what happens. Again, because we're overbought. Uh, what's going on here with NQ that it's a little interesting is that we've already kind of made those three touches at these lows here, and we've broken below that, but now we're kind of, it looks like we're coming back into it. So we may not get a touch into this zone during New York, and maybe we go higher. Maybe we just pause somewhere around here in value area. We don't necessarily, or we try to hover around here, and then we hop back up on here, pull back, and continue higher. Okay, that's the case for it going higher. Now, the case for going lower will be the opposite. During London, I would look for us to go up into POC, point of control, pull back, catch 25% of that, um, lock some of that in, and then head to the next one. There's some confluence here. You have a minus 25% expectation zone, and you also have value area high. Okay, and then so I would lock that in. Um, and then you see we have congestion here to the left, and then ultimately the decision point to go short during NY would be, in my opinion, if we head somewhere within this either this minus 50% expectation zone, where we have all this congestion, and this minus 100% expectation zone when we have the expansion box. Seeing, coming off of these important levels here, and even I'm not even against the minus 25% because it's in confluence with value area high for NQ, where we are across this, see higher lows, come in, lock in 25%, go to your target, lock in 25% target, so on and so forth. It looks like we're trying to poke lower here for this Globex session on NQ, but we're also congesting, so we'll see what happens here. Let's take a look at YM. Um, Sorry, that's on Ninja. Let's look at the macro first. So let's look at slash YM. So on YM, same kind of situation. We had this push down, and you see the channel that I drew here, and then now we have this range again, and we're coming off of the bottom Keltner. Okay, so we're oversold, um, and so again, until proven otherwise, not like NQ. NQ is already below this, but I think we could make a case for this going higher. So let's go ahead and look at that case to go higher first, and then we'll look at the opposing view on that. Let's go to the lower time frame here, and so you can see here that um, we were congesting here, which is not a big surprise. Because it's 12:48, still waiting for London. This move up obviously was during Globex when market open and whatnot, so probably need some movement on a Sunday night. Um, but as you can see here, it came down, made a pullback, and you could have caught something there. Um, but again, bigger picture, what I'm thinking is if you're gonna go long for the NY session, okay, I would want to wait for where I have the expansion box drawn. Um, Same thing, kind of like the other indices. The minus 50% expectation zone to the 100, which we tapped it here. Let's go back on this one and take a look. And yeah, so we tapped it here as well. Now, yeah, we got 3 taps on that. So we've already tested this area 3 times, and it's held up as support so far. And look, let's say we're going lower there. Take a look at the low of this candle. 1, 2. Maybe a good opportunity to short this, and take it to the minus 25% expectation zone for a first target um, during pre-London and this Globex session. Um, but that's just for now. If you're looking at the chart now, but you gotta be vigilant and make sure you got a good entry. And then if you do break down past the minus 25%, pull back, lock in 25, go to the 50%, then I would take a pause here and see where we end up in New York. We could end up anywhere from the 50 to the 75 to the 100. But ultimately, we've seen that we got 3 touches going back, going back to that area. We've had 1, 2, 3 touches as support, and it's held. Okay. So ideally, if we're going long, I want to wait for this, anywhere in this area. I'm waiting for it to touch, and then for us to see a shift in sentiment for any bears that are taking profit. You can see this is already working out. Um, I would wait, as an example, at the minus 50%. I would wait, for it to take a bounce, come up, pull back, and then lock in 25, or ultimately hit the minus 25 if we make it above the 25. Wait for the pullback, and then head into see what kind of an action we get here at value area low, as we have congestion. And if we get into the value area box, I think we could head higher to this confluence area where we have another decision point, which is the plus 50% expectation zone, right in confluence with value area high. So that'll be interesting to see. And conversely, if we're looking short, if we start up somewhere up here for NY, then you want to look for your pullback. So something low, you want to see it come down a little bit lower, pull back, lock in 25, target the minus 25%. See what happens at POC, pull back with this volume pocket. See a pullback, and then look at that. We could have locked in that that 25%. Let's see how much space we got there. So we can make a couple of points off that. That's interesting. You could also make this case as well. Just kind of like doing this live on the chart right here. You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and grab that, and we'll come back later and take a look. I'll stay. I'll do it in a bit. We'll see what happens. Oh, there we go. We're in that fall. Okay, so um, that's how I feel about YM. Let's look at RTY. Okay, let's go to the macro. And let me pull out before I go ahead and do that. I'm going to show you what I wanted to talk about. Was something that is something always good to look at. It's a pattern that a lot of a lot of the big, a lot of the traders that I respect look at on the daily time frame. So if we go to ES for example, and we look at a daily chart, all right, gotta look at a daily and let's look at the year. Okay, I'll show you something pretty interesting, and you might want to be cognizant of. So see how we have like an H forming here? Okay, these H's are pretty important because every time you see an H, you know, when we have these big days where we have a big sell off, you know, and we get a bounce back, and then people make the case that we may go, if you draw a trend line, that we're gonna go lower, and then you see here, you think you go lower, you get a bounce, and you actually go higher. So that's actually happened before. We had a double top here, um, and here we had a failed H situation. We had an H back here too. We had an H bounced up. Here we had the H, and then ultimately the failure of the range, and that's when we had the, you know, this is when we had obviously everything with COVID happen. Okay, when, you know, we had an H, pulled back up, and then we ultimately broke the range and had a major. This is when we had the big sell-off before we made the recovery. Okay, so I think that's where we're currently at now. We're at the H. Okay, just like we had the again, we had an, you know, the H pattern back here. Um, and it's something to be cognizant of because that's what gives us our range right here. We have our range. So if we break below this, um, you know, this is, you know, it's gonna be crucial to take a look at this because this is the range we're playing in, and if we come down and pull back or maybe have a big crash, then we could head lower, you know, and the next logical place would be, you know, where we have uh, previous support, so it would be like here or something like this down here, but that's on the daily time frame. So that's something I wanted to show you before I went on to RTY was the H patterns, because once you see those H's, you know, it could fake a lot of the shorts out, okay, a lot of the bears out. It could fake them out, and then it ultimately we just go back to the top of the range, and have the fundamentals drive the technicals. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at the bigger picture on RTY. With that being said, and with RTY, let's switch back to the 4 hour. Okay, so this is a 4 hour on RTY, and same kind of deal. We had the big sell off, and then pull back, sell off, pull back, sell off. Then we had kind of a push up and kind of like a head and shoulders, but we ended up ultimately trying to break a low here. We tested the low here, so we had two tests, didn't break, and we went back up into this zone right here where we had a lot of touches, broke out, and had another head and shoulders. We can't seem to get past this area where we have congestion to the left. We're touching the middle Keltner, as you can see now. We're headed down, but again, knowing that on the bigger time frame we're in an H pattern, um, and we're actually, since we're heading down towards Keltner, we're not really overbought. We're more steady here, and so we'll make the case for both. And we've been doing the case for both, you know, longs and shorts either way. Um, but we'll go ahead and take a look at that now on the lower time frames. And so this is the 15-minute chart, and same kind of deal. Got the trend lines drawn out for you, and as you can see, this one's a little different. Instead of going down like the other ones we went up, it looks like we actually had a third. We had this move down, came up, pull back, swing higher, broke the high, pulled back. So this may be heading higher. It looks like we're pulling into the previous day's close from Friday. If you're trading RTY for London, you may want to wait for it to break out of that, pull back, and maybe lock in some profit there. But again, the case for going long, if for some reason we turn around during London for NY session, we end up around the minus 50% expectation zone. Again, I like it because it has confluence with value area low. And let's look back and yeah, so we have 3 touches here as well, and with the value area low in the minus 50% expectation zone. And then we also have some good structure, and kind of like all of them, I didn't point this out, but we have congestion around the minus 100% expectation zone. So that's why I drew this expansion box from 50 to 100 on both sides. So we have structure on both. Okay. Um, but I would like to see ultimately a test of this support, this area, and then pullbacks. I mean, if we get the pushes down, see a push higher, pull back, lock in 25, go for your target, pass another target, pull back, lock in 25, etc. Until we start testing these highs. And that's what I'm ultimately looking for on all of these indices. Right now, the Russell seems to be kind of heading higher as opposed to what's going on with YM. Look, YM went ahead and touched the minus 25 percent expectation zone pretty much to the tick. NQ looks like it wants to push down as well. Looks like it wants to head down right now as well. And ES went ahead and touched the minus 25% as well to the tick, and now it looks like it wants to bounce off at least for the moment, unless maybe this might be a little pullback. But you could also see how these levels are really spot on. So that's my analysis and trade plan for Primeris Trade for Monday, the 21st of September, 2020. Again, this is Joseph for Primeris Trade, and happy trading. Grab them ticks, and God bless you all. Good night.